Welcome to Smells Popcorn, where I start the discussion.
Want to know some more fun facts?
Isn't it awesome to see some of your favorite content creators and favorite people, honestly, that you follow here on this tab, be a part of this amazing community called the Nerd Initiative?
Welcome to Fandoms, a show from every fan's point of view, brought to you by the Nerd Initiative Network. Here's your hosts, Tony and Michael.
And hello, I remembered my microphone this time, so welcome to episode 2 of Fandoms. As always, I am Tony, or Mr. Marvelite on TikTok, and we've got Michael, my partner in crime, our superhero talk. We are glad to be on with you guys again, and there's a lot to talk about. And I don't even know if we're going to be able to touch everything, but we're definitely going to try. So first of all, we're glad that you all are with us. It's been an amazing 2 weeks after we did the first episode. Would you agree, Michael?
It's been exhausting 2 weeks, I would say.
Well, yes. You had a little bit of traveling after the last 2 weeks, but I mean, like, even for our numbers for YouTube, we've actually seen, we've seen a boost with that, which has been fantastic. And then, of course, then came D23 and the Emmys. And so there is a lot to attempt to cover. So we're going to go ahead and just jump into it. Now, as we did last week, we had Mickey, or the voice of Cell Phone Wallet Keys, do our Star Wars segment and realizing how much information was coming out at D23. I reached out to Mickey and said, hey, you might as well just come on the show because there's no way I think anyone could be that concise with the amount of information that was there. So without further ado and without gilding the lily, let's go ahead and bring Mickey on. Hey,
what's up, guys? I went in the right direction. Didn't work.
Yeah. It's this way for me. It's terrible when you do mirrored things. Like inverted on TikTok is the worst because you don't even know how to hold the phone properly at that point. It's like, why is this so hard?
We were inverted.
Yes. You all see us appropriately. We like to see ourselves mirrored because it makes more sense that if I point this way, it's going that way, but it's not. It's going that way. But anyway. So D23 was Star Wars. What in the world? Like the amount of the stuff that came out. Now I imagine, we think about like with Marvel, and I think some people were disappointed with Marvel because they didn't get as much new stuff, and it wasn't as open for people on like Twitter and stuff. It was like it was at Hall H for San Diego Comic-Con. But regardless, Mickey, go ahead and we want to just go ahead and start doing a rundown of what we know and what we're looking forward to.
I guess we'll start at the top with like one of my more anticipated series coming out, Ahsoka, if that's okay, if you guys want to do that.
Yeah.
I love that we got some steals from the show and we got to know more about perhaps the plot, where it seems like this is almost going to be a continuation of Rebels in a way, where she's looking for Ezra Bridger, and we know from, I think it was Mandalorian season 2, that she's looking for Thrawn, and we know that the last time we saw them, they were together in Rebels. So I'm hoping that we get to kind of like pick up right where her and Sabine were about to go find Ezra and bring him back. I love the steal of Sabine looking at the mural, like they actually made the mural from Rebels. Painted it and everything. It looks so good. Her standing in front of it, it was perfect. That's something I'm really big. And we got the casting of Ezra too. Iman Esfandi. I hope I'm not butchering that. I'm always scared to pronounce someone's name, but he looks great. He's a really good actor. I can't wait to see more of him. And Natasha Liu Bordizzo as Sabine Wren is what we know so far.
Well, like for me, Clone Wars, anything with Ahsoka was always what I looked forward to. I that was kind of what reeled me into it. After a while, when you watch them, you kind of get like stuck in things. And so, what's great about the internet is they actually have like episodes where they'll tell you, if you like this character, watch these episodes. And of course, the fight between Maul and Ahsoka was amazing. Like that whole story on Mandalore. And then of course with Order 66. And you see, her fighting an entire, Star Cruiser, and
yes.
it was just amazing. Like it gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yep. She's an amazing character, like one of my favorite Jedi. And I remember watching Clone Wars 2, and they really displayed her at first as somebody you didn't want to like, with Snips being snippy and all that. But she grew on us, and she was just such an organic character. I felt like. That really had sprout roots and grew this huge tree of a character that now is spread all over Star Wars. And I know that, speaking of Ahsoka, we're also going to get Tales of the Jedi, which is like the animated show where we kind of get little pieces from the Clone Wars backstory anyway, it seems like.
I hope it doesn't end up being like I Am Groot, like 5-minute little short funny. I hope they go into more depth with this. I think there's a lot to cover.
Oh yeah. They're I don't know about, they're going to be shorts. I don't know how short, but even Filoni said like I might have went too dark especially with the Dooku side of because you've got two paths really, because Ahsoka and Dooku are almost like two sides of the same coin. They just went in different directions. They were both fed up with the Jedi and how they were kind of turning a blind eye to the corruption and the way they were just kind of letting the Senate kind of get away with whatever.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka decided, I've had enough of this. I'm just going to cut ties with everything. Whereas Dooku was like, well, if this guy Palpatine is saying we can tear it all down and build it up anew, I'm going to go that way. So
yeah.
Also, one of the things that was talked about was Bad Batch season 2.
Yes.
So we're definitely getting a continuation from of course last season, but of that crew, and what's going on with them.
Yeah. We got a trailer. It looks like they have some new outfits. They may have been like outfitted with, because obviously they're not clone troopers anymore. They're not part of the Republic or Empire or whatever. They're on their own, so they've kind of pieced together some of their own armor and having to replace their own pieces. They almost look like the Mandalorian at the beginning of season 1, where he's all pieced together with all different stuff. So that's exciting, and we get to see Omega grow a little bit more, and I'm excited to see where that goes, because I'm a big fan of the animated series of Star Wars, and the clones are very interesting to me as characters, so I can't wait to see where they go with that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Let's see. Also, we had.
I was just like, I'm just rolling them out.
I know. I'm just like, we go with it. You guys keep talking as much as you can. This is like this.
Right.
I love Star Wars, but at the same time, it's like I feel like I'm so behind. Like I haven't even finished season 1 of Bad Batch, and it's not for anything other than I just don't know how to budget time between Marvel and everything else that I have to end up watching. So, but we also got an announcement for something I think I was a little bit surprised about. Something called Skeleton Crew.
Yes.
And we did get an announcement for Jude Law is going to be participating in this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what Chris Watts from No Way Home is going to be.
Yes. John Watts. Yeah.
John Watts. Sorry, John Watts.
Yeah.
John Watts is part of the duo. I watch a lot of true crime. Sorry. John Watts is part of the duo that is behind that, which puts a knife in my heart, because I really was hoping he would direct Fantastic Four, but I will be excited to see this nonetheless. So I want to get Mickey's take.
Yeah, at the panel, I'm pretty excited for it, because it's on. I think what's cool about these new series and properties and shows that are coming out now, we're getting to see the galaxy and the Empire and everything from a different point of view, because we've always seen it from the Jedi and the almost the royalty of this world, this universe. Now all these shows coming out now, we really get to see it from the bottom up, and that's Skeleton Crew, just a group of kids that get lost somehow on a starship, and it was kind of, I don't know how to take it, but it was kind of referred or reference to like Stranger Things in Star Wars. I don't know if it's going to be like supernatural or anything like that, but I think they mean like the same kind of chemistry between the kids and same age groups, and it's not. And they even said it's going to be pretty dark too. It's not going to be like a kids show per se. It's going to have some mature themes basically.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's one of the things that has worked well with just the recent bit of Star Wars like material that we've gotten, where they are kind of steering away from like the Jedi story or the Skywalker story, if you want to say, and they're introducing new concepts within the world. I think Bad Batch was a great idea of looking within the Empire, and you're rooting for a group of guys that worked for the Empire at first, and then you see them, them descent, and then you have this, with Mandalorian, which I guess in a sense they kind of still leaned into the Jedi, or at least the Force with Grogu, and then of course bringing in Luke in season 2. But at the same time, it's definitely got that Western style to it. I think that's the thing that works well with them, and I think that's what if other franchises could learn from Marvel, is just go with different genres. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing every single time. Like I remember, I was really excited when I watched the prequel, when I watched Phantom Menace as a teenager, and I was like, oh look, they're using like the wipes and like the fades and all that kind of stuff like they do in the movies, and I'm like, but that's all it is. It's like they're just kind of regurgitating the same thing, and it kind of felt old. It wasn't something different. It was just like the prequel trilogy was trying to be like the original franchise, but with more computer graphics and stuff. And and then of course I think that was what also kind of was my main point of contention, apart from what other people complain about with the sequel trilogy. It was very much the same style, I felt, as the previous ones, and they could have benefited from each being their own type of genre, or their own style of movie. They didn't have to do that, and I think that's what they've done well with the Disney Plus shows, at least. So.
Oh yeah.
The sequel trilogy suffered from the fact that like the directors who came in and dropped out, and the incongruity of the whole thing really. And then I think they just kind of like tried to give us all like let us eat cake at the end and be like, here, let me give you Return of the Jedi over again.
Yeah,
But,
pretty much.
you know, with a different cast, and it was like, okay. And like, I mean, I think me and Tony were talking about it in the last episode, or at least recently we were talking about it. And I said, as much as I love Palpatine, I think he was the biggest mistake bringing him back for The Rise of Skywalker. And I was like, it just regurgitating the same thing over and over again. It's like, all right, we need something else. I wanted to see, I hope, like, much like they're going into Dooku's past, or hopefully we'll go into Dooku's past, I do want to learn. I mean, I know he's kind of like a lame duck character now, but I want to know about Snoke. Like, is he just really just like a creation of like Palpatine? Is it like, is there a cool backstory? Is there not? Or are we just kind of like?
I'm afraid there isn't. That's the problem. Like, it's like
bad.
you like the end of The Rise of Skywalker. You're sitting there watching, like, you mean all he was is just basically a easy bake oven, villain? Like, really?
But a puppet.
Because he seemed interesting and nefarious at first, and I'm thinking, well, what if he was like the remnants of Palpatine? Like, I was hoping that they went to the point of where it was like the remnants of Palpatine, and this is how they brought him back to life, and this is how he looks all different, and he's just going under the auspice of being Snoke, but he's really Palpatine. And I was like, that would have been cool. I would have thought that would be cool. Like, it's kind of like as Darth Vader was this thing. Snoke has all the hideous features. What if he was Sidious? And I really hope at some point we do get more into even like the Sith background.
Yes,
we will.
I was waiting until we were done with everything, but like, I really want stuff of the Old Republic. I really, really want, much like they're doing with Lord of the Rings, and like they're doing with Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. I want to know. Let's take it back further and find out like how this all began, and the split, and the Jedi into the Sith and the Fallen Jedi, and yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. I want to know this stuff, and I think I like how they're branching out. I hope they have something planned to do something like that, because I would be enthralled. Sorry, Mickey, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I love what you're saying, and I want to say that they do. There's a show, Acolyte, that they're in development right now, that will take place during the High Republic, and kind of when the Jedi are at their height and the Sith are thought to be completely gone.
That's awesome.
And or at least beaten down. I don't know who it will, who the show will focus on, like a Sith character or some Jedi characters, but they've already started casting for it with a couple of people. Mm-hmm. I don't know how far they've written or what they've got, but it is in the works, something in that era.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you take it even further back, like the Sith originally were like the Jedi, where they had a whole academy. And then obviously that would be a really chilling kind of scene where it's like almost like a team.
Game of Thrones with lightsabers.
Yeah, I mean, I just started watching Invincible, and we all know who that. Like, I'm not going to ruin it, but that first episode turn at the end, that would be really cool. Where it's almost like Darth. I mean, I don't know who the two that took the rest of them down were, but like, I don't think it's Darth Revan, but like, I think he came later. But whoever one of the first Darth was, like, just start killing all the other Sith, and they're like, there will only be two. Like, that would be such a cool
like,
thing
where
to see.
did the rule of two come from? And like, awesome, and even like a background of like Darth Plagueis, because I just remember when I was listening to Palpatine talk to Anakin about Darth Plagueis, like that story. Like, I want those. Like, I would love for them to be like, it would be like a Sith holocron, and it's like it just like generates like the images of a story, and you like get zoomed into it.
Yes.
Like, that would be cool. Like the Tales of the Sith, almost like the Tales of the Jedi.
And I know how much Marvelous Johnny loves reading his Star Wars, and he must be a smarter person than I, because the books are so dense. I tried to read the Darth Plagueis book. It is so dense and slow, and I just wanted to be like, can we just get to him creating Anakin and doing this? And like, he's on like a freighter ship for like 40 pages, and I'm just like, I'm falling asleep. Like, I want to see him kind of be, a bad man, and he's just kind of like, he's another one. He's kind of like a Palpatine. He's like a politician in disguise who's like really deep down, obviously this crazy Sith. But yeah, I want to see that so badly. I want to see these things. He's like,
I take it you've never read The Hobbit, Michael?
No, not. I have not.
It's like, or even Lord of the Rings. Like, when you get into the Fellowship of the Rings and you get to Tom Bombadil, I almost put the book down, because that was the hardest. Like, if I have never, like, a book has never made me feel like I was aging at the rate that the characters were. Like that part of the story. Like once you got past it, it was great. But like Tom Bombadil took over 100 pages, and like it just felt like forever. It was a novel in itself. And you're like, where is this going? And this is all before you get to the Prancing Pony. It was the Prancing Pony, right? So like, they're traveling. They've left the Shire. They go through the woods, and they're on their way to the Prancing Pony, and they get stopped in the woods with Tom Bombadil, if I remember correctly. And so like it took forever.
Yeah. I also think my ADD has gotten worse as I've gotten older. So like while I did read like The Count of Monte Cristo in like 3 days when I was in high school, I could not sit around now. And maybe it's like an environmental thing. Like we're all getting ADD from like the Diet Cokes we're drinking and like whatever, like, and it's all just like, I can't. Yeah, I mean, I get up and do laundry during watching like a 2-hour movie. There's no way I'm sitting and reading like a.
Oh yeah, it's like in middle school when they tasked us to read like the Red Badge of Courage. I accidentally got the unabridged version, so like don't do that to yourself. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about? I mean, well, first of all, let me go ahead and pull up a couple things here real quick. Just because I was going to do this later, but since you are on here with us. It is worth sharing. One of the cool things about Michael going to D23 was him getting to see some of this stuff. And I don't have the video of it, but they had one of the Yoda puppets, and Michael did a video. It's on his TikTok, and just watching like he was doing the whole Force thing, and like it was cool just looking at that, and you realize how beautiful that is even now.
Well, my partner in crime, Anthony Quintana, who was there with me, was talking to the artist who did it, and he was saying, and I think someone commented when I posted it too. They were like, "That's the closest we've seen since the first trilogy," but that's for a reason, because those puppets don't exist anymore. So the guy was saying that all the parts, the pieces and parts, and the puppets are scattered everywhere, and so like this guy, who's like just an amateur. Well, I don't want to say amateur, but he's like a professional artist and creator, like. Collected all the original pieces, and it's like one of, he was saying, and again, I don't know how much this is like braggadocio or true, but he was saying this is like one of the only genuine like all original parts put together. So I guess apparently they don't really exist, so that's why you haven't seen them since then. So like it really is the closest to like that original puppet that we saw. So it's spectacular seeing it up close and seeing him do his thing.
Well, I remember a couple years ago with if you remember the show American Picker. Like there was one of the episodes they went into this person's house, and they actually had, I think it was like 3 or 4 of the prototypes that they had used, and it was the first time that they ever seen one almost completely intact, and these were in great condition. I think they actually acquired, and I'm not sure, but I think that got back to Lucasfilm. But it's amazing to think that these amazing pieces were lost in time, and in some cases it's like they didn't realize what they had. Lucas had the vision for this, and it's even interesting if you ever go back. There's a great podcast to listen to, especially if you're a fan of like how amazing how amazing the journey is for a movie to be made. Like there was like one was like making The Exorcist, and there was one making Star Wars, and this guy literally goes through from like even as Lucas was a kid. And like he liked fast cars, and his dad bought him a Fiat to try to get him from not race. And he ended up like souping the thing up, and he had a 5-point belt, and he was on his way home, and he got in a terrible accident. And it was only because the 5-point seatbelt broke that he survived the accident, or else he would have been it would wrap around his and killed. And at that point, he realized he needed to do something with his life, because at that point his dad was like selling, like had a stationery business, and he had this idea of this fantastical world, and he started writing it down, and it was kind of like his dream thing, and like the stuff that he did to get to that point where he could do that film, but then never realizing how much of a legacy it would build behind it. It wasn't until I think after the Return of the Jedi where he finally decided, I need to document some of this, or I need to keep some of this stuff, and then he built Skywalker Ranch, and almost didn't complete it because of a little film called Howard the Duck, but that's another story.
Well, I mean, to your point, it's funny like that you mentioned that, and this is like connected but not connected. I remember when Carrie Fisher passed, I spoke to her brother, and I didn't know how huge and influential Carrie Fisher was in like costumes and memorabilia history. Like there was like much like comics in like the 90s and before grading came in, there was like a dark time in comics where like everything was just like saturated and like people like had given up. Or cards. I mean, we always all our parents talk about like, oh, I had my Mickey Mantles that were thrown out and blah blah. I remember talking to him and he was like, it was Carrie's mission to get all these outfits and get all these like costumes that were literally just sitting in people's closets or thrown like in boxes or whatever. And she created her own little museum. And I had no idea that she was so like instrumental in that. So that's super interesting too, that like there was definitely a dark time in movie making and the history was just being like tossed aside. Sad. So luckily, like now we realize how important these things are. So yeah.
That's an amazing thing. And then, of course, you know, we also can't end our segment with the voice of Cell Phone Keys without talking about Andor and how excited we are for that. I mean, you did a great segment last week, and I loved, or the last show, and I loved how you brought up the practical staging that they're doing and how they're really doing this, and it's going to feel like it. And I remember looking recently about there was a picture online where it was them sitting these two people sitting in a booth, and you would have thought that this was normal, like every day, like in like a diner, and you realize that was Andor and that was part of the Star Wars universe, and they're really bringing it down to a ground level, which I like.
Yeah, they're trying to keep it like, I don't want to say as basic as possible, but you know, as far down as we can go, where everyone's kind of looking up at everything going on. And like you say, everything's practical. They built all that stuff, and a lot of the vibes so far that I'm hearing, the people that got to go to the premiere a couple nights ago, everybody's kind of someone said that it kind of had like a HBO series vibe, like that. So it's a dark and gritty thing. It's not, you know, Jedis and all that stuff.
Hopefully not DC dark and gritty.
Well, no.
No, a friend of mine saw the first, I think it was 4 episodes. And I won't out him, but in case he's not supposed to tell me about it or not. But he said that, there was very little action in the first 4 episodes. It's very much like an espionage, spy kind of situation. Because we're obviously going through Andor's like past 5 years. It was 5 years before Rogue One, right? So that's super interesting. Almost kind of like a Bourne a series or Bourne, you know, franchise in that respect. So again, it's a different take on it, which is kind of cool, and they're doing a different spin on it. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, anything else, Mickey?
I guess the only other two.
You talk about Mandalorian at all?
Mando 3, yes.
Nobody really cares about that, do they?
And literally before we even got on, I said my favorite part of the whole thing was seeing Pedro Pascal hugging everybody, and he was so excited. And it's like, we don't care about that.
Yeah, because I know this guy was excited.
I was definitely excited.
I'm excited. I like that we're gonna get more Mandalorians. We're gonna get. I assume Death Watch is gonna play a bigger part, perhaps, in this one. I'm not sure. With the Forge. I can't remember her name right now. It makes all the weapons and armor and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But there's going to be some serious like back and forth going on between Mando and like the hardcore cultists, and I don't know where Bo-Katan's going to fit in there. So
yeah, I think in the trailer, isn't there a part where Bo-Katan is talking to her and basically saying you're the reason why we fell? Like, yeah. I mean it's pretty intense. I just looking at it, I feel like we're gonna get a whole lot more Mandalore, which I really wanted to go back to it after Clone Wars and that whole Ahsoka storyline at the end. Like it would have been amazing to go back and really look at Mandalore and see what happened after the Empire just basically ravaged it.
Yeah, they had a great arc where Darth Maul, kind of takes over, and we learned a lot about that planet. So that'll be pretty cool. And I guess we're gonna get a whole lot of like season 1 callbacks. I don't know exactly what we're gonna get, but a whole lot of overarching things from season 1 are gonna come into season 3.
Cool.
So
yeah, I'm excited.
You said there was 2 things.
Well, just so Young Jedi Adventures. We're gonna like a little probably like a Disney Junior show for your kids. If anybody's interested in that, I will be. I'll have my little one in front of the TV for that one. And Rogue Squadron was supposed to be coming out soon, but apparently that's been pulled off the calendar. That's the Patty Jenkins film.
Okay.
So I don't know if we're gonna get any like Star Wars movies for like a few years. I think they're just focusing on Disney Plus series right now.
That was the talk. Like, so after, again, like, and it's funny because it's funny that when we come in, there's like, oh, a lot of the talk outside of D23, outside of that bubble, was there's so much Star Wars stuff and there wasn't a lot of Marvel stuff. When you were inside the thing, it's the opposite. There was a lot of Star Wars stuff, but I think like a handful of people I spoke to were big Star Wars, like either covering it or fans or whatever, were like, there's no movies. So they were like, what's, why is it there's no, they're just giving up on the movies. And then with Marvel, which we'll get into later on, it felt never ending. Like, I know they only gave out 2 trailers and we talked about that or whatever, but we'll get into that. There was a lot more that was not shown. And so it almost felt like a little too much on the Marvel end. But as far as the Star Wars end, yeah, I mean, I actually don't care if there's, after Solo, like, I don't really care about there not being movies.
I like Solo.
Hey, I like Solo too.
It was okay. It just, again, they're digging under the well for water at this point.
I get what you're saying.
Again,
I get what you're saying.
love the Skywalker saga. I love Mark Hamill to death. I love that whole thing, even though I'm not using Mark Hamill. But I just want to know I want to go back and go to a different time period. And I also love Mandalorian, and but I think we're staying in this like really cushy bubble. So I want to see more Acolyte.
Yeah.
And I want to see the beginnings of the Jedi and the Sith. Like, I want to see how this all started.
I want it to be like, if they ever do like the whole pan with the title Star Wars again, it'd be like not so long ago in a galaxy not too far away, and we get more recent, recent to us and not so far in the future, like see how
like 5 minutes ago. In a galaxy right next door.
Yeah, and at some point, I guess like you see like there was a Planet of Apes or whatever somewhere. I don't know. But Disney owns that too, don't they?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the Planet of the Apes Star Wars Marvel like crossover.
Oh, that'd be great.
So
Kang Review saying that there might be a next Star Wars movie in 2025.
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard somebody on Twitter was like complaining that they have to wait that long, which. If you consider what happened with Return of the Jedi and Episode 1, it's not so bad.
Yeah, you're right.
So
I'm telling you, our ADD
we've got a lot to hold us over on Disney Plus.
See, that's the thing. Disney is setting us up for being spoiled. We expect something. Like, I remember when it was like people felt like 2 Marvel movies at the beginning, like with Iron Man, Incredible Hulk. They never felt connected, but they were in the same year. And then you had to wait like 2 or 3 years before you got the next one. And then now it's like, oh, you're a movie a year. And then it was like, oh, 2 movies a year. Because it was always May and November. And then now look at us. I mean, we're so spoiled. And then people are complaining about too much. And I'm thinking, I remember 2020. I am not complaining about the lack of Marvel content. Because I remember watching Infinity War and having to wait a whole freaking year. And then after Far From Home, it was like the world decided to collapse and refuse to give us anything more. And I will never complain about too much Marvel content.
It's like we had a pandemic. Like, what happened?
I don't care about the pandemic. Like, I do care about the pandemic. I just got my booster shot, but I'm saying like I didn't care. I wanted content. Like, what was?
Did you guys ever watch? Because this is the coolest, most, and it's only unique to people that watched it. The Blacklist.
No,
I'm probably one.
I know the show, but I didn't watch it.
The year of COVID, I've never seen this, and it didn't work. But and sorry to cut if I was cutting off or whatever. It's just fascinating. They finished the finale with a cartoon. So like because like people couldn't get together. No, so like there would be. They did an intro for the finale, and they're like, we filmed half of it, but half of it is not, and we can't get together, so we didn't want to leave you like. So there's parts where like it goes from like a normal scene, and then all of a sudden it's like an animated part, and there's bubbles. It's crazy. So it was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Only to COVID, we'll never see that again, and it did not work, but it was interesting.
My wife just said that she loves the Blacklist. I can't believe she wouldn't have told me about this. I like wonky stuff like that. I probably wouldn't have liked the show, but I'm just saying I probably would have liked that episode.
I might like the James Spader's. I mean, it's Ultron essentially. He's great. He's very witty and sarcastic. It's like seeing an older Robert Downey Jr. play this role. It's good.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well, Mickey, thank you so much for being on with us. We really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
right when we were talking, and you're like, you know, let me get this information. I'm like, you know, let's have you on. I forgot that D23 like was just gonna kick everybody's butt with
Huge.
content. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I appreciate it. Like, I'm happy to be here. This is great. This was fun.
absolutely. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna switch up. We're gonna go to some movie news from Pooja, samosas and popcorn. So, Mickey, thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.
All right, thanks. Peace out, fandoms.
All right, here we go.
Thank you, my friend, as always.
Hi, my name is Pooja, also known as Samosas and Popcorn, and I'm here to bring you the latest news in movies. On September 8th, which was also Disney Plus Day, we got Disney's latest live-action remake, Pinocchio, which follows the age-old tale of the wooden puppet who just wants to be a real boy. On September 9th, Walt Disney Studios worked with several Bollywood studios to release Brahmastra, the beginning of a cinematic universe involving Hindu mythology mirroring the heroic likes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The genre of horror is on the rise, with the latest film being The Barbarian, which centers around a young woman who is double booked in a rental house with another stranger. Little does she know that there's something quite haunting about the house. September 16th also marks the release of several great movies. Viola Davis leads The Woman King, a historical film about an all-female warrior army that protected the West African kingdom of Dahomey. Fun fact, the Dora Milaje from Black Panther was actually inspired by this group of warriors, and I gotta be honest, I am beyond excited for this. Also, I wasn't kidding when I said horror was on the rise. Pearl is a prequel horror film to the A24 film X, released earlier this year from T West. It explores the origins of Mia Goth's Pearl and how she became the vicious killer that debuted in X. This one looks quite gruesome. And finally, we have Netflix's Do Revenge, a new film following a queen bee whose peak existence in high school has been torn apart by an exposing video. In order to get revenge on those responsible, she teams up with an unlikely new girl from school. Well, that's all we have for this week. Tune in next time for more movie news. Back to you guys.
Awesome.
All right, that was cool. And I will say, I'm first of all, with The Barbarian, I've heard don't look up anything that people have said. I think Pooja did a great job, you know, describing it. But I've heard don't go into it and just be expected to be shocked a bit, which I think is a good thing. I've not heard it in a negative way, so definitely, you know, that. But I want to touch on The Woman King real quick. When she said that the Dora Milaje were based off of these people, that's amazing, and that sets the bar. Because like one of the things I've always loved about like Wakanda and with Black Panther has always been the Dora Milaje and how ruthless they are, and disciplined that they are, that they appear in the movies and stuff. So just going back and looking to see who they're based off of is actually pretty exciting.
It's really cool, and like we were I was talking earlier about this. There was a clip of a Black Panther clip shown at D23 too, and it featured them heavily and just absolutely kicking butt and essentially like saving Wakanda from like outside invaders trying to take over and whatnot. And it just was a powerful clip. I mean, I'm butchering it right now explaining it, but it was an amazing clip. Yeah,
and speaking about Wakanda Forever, there's been a lot of stuff like, let's see if I can pull up there. So we definitely saw the crew back up on the stage at D23. I don't know what it is with Ryan Coogler and with that team. Like they always seem to just kind of bring a presence with themselves, and it really, this is one of my most anticipated movies of this year. Like I looked forward to Multiverse of Madness because of Scarlet Witch. I looked forward to Thor: Love and Thunder because of the Mighty Thor, but just the fear of how they were going to handle this story. Let me get how they were going to handle the story with the passing of Chadwick Boseman. They've been incredibly respectful to him and his family, and to his character. I get chills every time I watch that original trailer we got from D23.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I will say, like, it's insane. Like, and to what you were saying, it made me think of something. You were talking about like these individual characters that you were excited about, and when I think of Wakanda Forever, it's the ensemble cast. So, you know, you have Shuri, you had the actor who plays it's blanking me right now, but M'Baku, who's in Winston Duke.
Yep, Winston Duke. Yep.
He's just fantastic, and like he took the stage, and obviously, I mean, Angela Bassett, like and what was the word she used? She called it the calm before the crazy, crazy storm.
Yeah.
And that's the one that everyone took for their sizzle reel. They're like, this is the and obviously she's so iconic, so it makes a lot of sense. But I will say they all are being very, very good about Chadwick, knowingly so. I think it's going to be a very, very sad horror movie to sit through.
Yeah.
I want to know how they address it, because I think I'm fascinated to see how they're going to deal with it. We know they'll do him justice, but I also think, man, Ryan Coogler, just like, the guy is so impressive as far as like a creative force and director, and I'm just excited to see. I think there's going to be so many surprises coming our way from this film.
Yeah.
So I'm like you. I think it's going to be. I was worried, and now I'm absolutely not. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. So it's interesting because when I went back and watched the original Black Panther, a couple of things that I thought was interesting, and I think if Chadwick was still able to play T'Challa, if he was still with us, I think definitely they would have like explored other things. But we immediately got M'Baku, who is played by Winston Duke, who in the comic books is an antagonist to Black Panther. And they kind of play a little bit on that, but then they build that friendship, that bond together, that mutual respect. And you even see it, like, it was interesting in the first movie how he went from being the outcast tribe, the tribe that they were whispering about when they appeared, and he's going after T'Challa. T'Challa shows him kindness, and giving him mercy, and then, M'Baku immediately repays that back by saving T'Challa from the water. They end up joining the fight, and you see that M'Baku takes that place on the council in the throne as the doors are closing when T'Challa's there. And I mean, I remember seeing that and getting chills. And then immediately in Infinity War, we have T'Challa and M'Baku meeting on the field of battle together, and you could tell there was no more like stress or anything between the two of them. It was very much of a camaraderie thing. And I loved that. I love that they took it in a different direction. And then the same thing with, and I apologize if I say this wrong. I'm pretty sure I know her name, but Lupita Nyong'o, who plays Nakia. Nakia is, yes, a love interest to T'Challa, but in the comic book she becomes a villain as well. And so like wondering like if they were going to go that direction, and they decided to go in completely different routes with these characters. You really see the bond between the two of them. Would we have ever gotten a relationship on screen with Storm and T'Challa? You never know. But regardless, the world that Ryan Coogler has built around Wakanda is amazing. And I think one of the scenes that you guys saw had to do with, you said the Dora Milaje, and it was the boat scene, wasn't it? Because what was being reported was that the UN, everybody, the world is trying to take the vibranium from Wakanda. And
speaking of which, so that was another thing that I don't think was, I mean, again, being there and being kind of in a bubble, you don't really see what's going on in the outside world. But I will say, one of the buried leads in there was we officially, I mean, look, it's not a huge surprise. We officially got Namor's motivation for attacking Wakanda. He talked about the fact that they opened up their borders, and now that everyone's trying to come at them. And that's a huge thing, because we know his motivation now is someone else pulling the strings or whatever, but it's because of Wakanda opening its doors at the end of Black Panther, and then even further in Infinity War, and even further, in post-credit scenes and more. Namor is not a huge fan. He wants everything closed off. And so there's a line in there where he says, I'm forgetting the words. I should have like written the stuff down, but like, he says basically, he's like, yeah, you've let, you've left the wolves in the hen house or whatever. And, we basically should not have it. And so, like, not to butcher that line, but yeah, I mean, I thought that was a big thing that I didn't see a lot of people talk about. But again, it's also because, the footage was not for distribution. So that makes it difficult, but
yeah, it was interesting because like the only time, so post Endgame, and this is one of those things where if you had the opportunity to do it and you did it, it was great. If you don't, I don't know if it'll ever come anywhere else. And I've kind of wanted there to be something like, especially for like the VR world, to be able to experience this. But there was the VR like studios called The Void that you could go to. One was at Disney Springs, I think it was.
Oh yeah,
Like
I did that. Yeah.
they had it, and it was done by X Lab or ILM's X Lab, where they did things like for Oculus they did I think it was the Vader Immortal and stuff like that. And the story was Avengers Damage Control, and it was all in the presence, and it had Felicia Wright, who plays Shuri. She was at one of the Wakandan outreach, like the science centers, and
Okay.
they basically they're recruiting you to test out a merging between Stark tech and Wakandan tech in these like Wakandan Iron Man suits. And so like it mixed the hologram shields that when you put your hand up like this, it put the shield on, and then of course you had the repulsor that you could put your hand out. And it was an interesting story because it put up the idea that, and it was called Avengers Damage Control. And you think of Damage Control, the Department of Damage Control. Well, Ultron was attacking Damage Control and was taking, Stark tech and all the tech, the alien tech, and was making other versions of himself. And you're basically recruited by Doctor Strange, and you join like Spider-Man. And they had a lot of the actors like Benedict Cumberbatch like reprised his role as Doctor Strange, and you literally get teleported into the Sanctum Sanctorum and walk up the steps, and it was very much of a tactile experience. Like when you walk up the stairs in the Sanctum, you're walking upstairs and you're holding a railing, and it was great how they did that. And so it was always considered like a canon adjacent story. Like it could have been in canon, but it wasn't in canon. And what was interesting was like the Spider-Man suit was more akin to the Avengers Campus Spider-Man suit, but with a bigger spider on the chest. And so you had like all of these characters that kind of jumped in, and you flew a Quinjet, you did all of those things, and but I always thought it was interesting how like you get that, and then of course there's this book, which you can get on Amazon, called The Wakandan Files. And when you go in here, it's literally an in-canon book about Shuri's research regarding Stark tech, Gamma tech, like all the things that are going on, like, and you can see that Shuri is it hit very much hints at the idea that Shuri is trying to synthesize an artificial heart-shaped herb, using like the research from the Stark tech, from like the super soldier serum and Banner's research, and even like considering about Bucky, like she acknowledges that the gamma radiation from all of these different exposures with the Vita Ray and everything else is what caused the mutate for all of these individuals, and it's just kind of interesting how they go deeper into the world, and that's but again, if you're not like diving deep, you don't see these things. It's like after Black Panther, there was Avengers Endgame, and then you're immediately going, Infinity War and Endgame, and then you're going into Wakanda Forever. Yeah. But there's so much deeper, and it's always fun to go back and look at those things, just to get like a better glimpse of the world. And I think that's why I really like things like She-Hulk right now, because you're seeing the MCU in a completely different lens. And it's looking completely different, and like even like these characters live in this world, and how do these people respond? And of course there's Iron Man 3 shoes, which I know you probably buy in a heartbeat.
I would buy in a heartbeat, but also there was Cyclops shoes, there was Deadpool shoes,
the Thing was there, like Thing. It was really cool. They even had Quicksilver shoes. If you looked, it was kind of blurred off, but it was like all of these different things that were there. And I love the fact that there's like knockoff Avengers merchandise in the MCU.
Avengers. I mean, I kind of want that. I'm totally copying. I think a video that Pooja made, Samosas and Popcorn. And she was like, I would take it even because it's cute. But I also almost want that now. I think that, I hope they market that, because that is going to be a. Do you
realize that bootleg merchandise in the MCU would then be licensed merchandise in our world?
Yeah, how cool is that?
Like bootleg, it's licensed bootleg. It's just enough to make your mind spin.
It's like putting a mirror on a mirror, and it's like they just keep going on forever. But you were saying, about we were talking about the line of you were talking about Shuri's path and where she's going, and I will say that's a really good pivot into. So when Coogler was still up there, we also did get a short clip of Ironheart, which is Riri Williams' introduction. And there wasn't a lot to show, but there was kind of a little bit of like an intro into her friendship with Shuri. She gave a little backhanded, like, comment about Iron Man. I want to do it like him, but better. So she's got a little bit of like a cockiness in her, which will make for a really good character development. And so another interesting show that he's putting together that I think will also tell a different story from a different aspect, will be tangentially connected to Wakanda, but I think also will be fascinating to watch. So I'm excited about that as well, because I mean that's a really modern, unique take on the Iron Man storyline. So I think that's going to be kind of cool to see as well.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of all the stuff on D23, I don't want to take all of the wind from JT. JT did our Marvel segment this week, so we're going to go ahead and go to him real quick and what he had to say.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Marvel section of the show. My name is JT, and I'm the host of the East Coast Avengers podcast, and I'm here to quickly talk to you guys about 3 things that I found most interesting in the past few weeks from Marvel. So let's kick things off with topic number 3. This past week at D23, we were shown 2 different new trailers. That is Werewolf by Night and Secret Invasion. Both of them look really interesting, and I was super excited to see both those trailers. Me personally, I liked Werewolf by Night a little bit more, but we can have that conversation later. Topic number 2 also came from D23, and that's right, this man right here, who I'm pretty sure all of you forgot about, he is returning as the leader in Captain America New World Order. That's right, in the brand new Captain America movie with Sam Wilson as Captain America. He will be reprising his role as the leader, and that is none other than Tim Blake Nelson. Yes, I was certainly shocked when this news dropped. I had forgotten all about his character. I had forgotten that he was in Marvel or MCU or whatever. That was back way when the Hulk was out, and who remembers the Hulk? I know I don't. Sorry, Hulk fans. But anyways, on to our main topic, and that is we finally have the writer for Avengers, The Kang Dynasty, and that is none other than Jeff Loveness. He has done a couple of things. I know he has written Ant-Man 3, or he is currently writing Ant-Man 3, and he has also written some stuff for Rick and Morty. Guys, he is the man who I really think is going to pull this movie and make it one for the ages. So that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Back to you guys.
There is really a lot, I know a lot of people complain that there wasn't as much stuff for D23 for like people that weren't there. That's the thing. It's for people that weren't there. I think everybody needs to realize like D23 is a fan experience, and so there are going to be lots of exclusives to D23, and of course things will leak afterward. But up until it's going to be kind of it's all mum's the word. Like no one wants to spoil anything while they're there. And then even like I've even seen things like Theories by T, Torelli's he very much avoided like showing footage that wasn't released to the public. Mm-hmm. And he's like he's showing a picture. He's like, no, I didn't do this. This isn't me.
Well, I will tell you, like when you're in the seat. So we were pretty close up. It was kind of great. Like I don't know how we got lucked out, but like I will tell you that like we were sitting next to someone who had been there before, and I had not been in that panel, and they have a system down. I mean, they used to take away the phones apparently, but they don't do it anymore. Now their thing is when the lights go on and the talent comes out, you can record, do whatever you want. But the second like footage comes on, the lights go off, and they tell you like if we see anything, you doing anything, we're taking you and walking you out the door. So I think people are terrified to be like, no one wants to be that person who is like in the middle of a Marvel panel and got walked out. And so, yeah, I mean, I by my count, I think there was 2 or 3 trailers released to the public. And I will say this, like very confidently, there was like 10 trailers that people in the audience saw. So much so that like that night Saturday after that panel, I was like, I actually kind of wish they had condensed it down to 5 or 6 and had more conversations with the cast. A lot of the cast, like the Loki cast, while we saw a really interesting clip for season 2, and that gives a lot away, but like it was a red herring because Kevin Feige was like, oh yeah, they're in London and they couldn't come out here, but I told them I wanted them to come out here and just say hi. So they flew out here and here they are. And it was like a surprise. And then they walked on stage for like a minute and he's like, all right, cool. You guys are gone. And that was it. Same thing with, I know you want to touch on New World Order next. All these casts were like, they were like walked on stage, then walked off stage, then walked on stage, then walked. I mean, to the point where Vincent D'Onofrio was finally like, dude, are we going to talk about my show? And I know that was like planned, but then they came on, talked for a minute, and then that was it, and they left. And so it wasn't there. There were so many different segments, and they went over everything coming, except for like one weird thing. And then we can talk more about New World Order in detail. The one weird thing I will say that didn't have a presence, but kind of did, was Fantastic Four.
That was the most anticipated because people were wanting to see casting news, and we got nothing.
But it was strange because like even stuff that didn't have, okay, so if you look at Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox who came out there, there's obviously no footage for Daredevil, right? Like there's nothing there. And so they came out, they waved, they talked. And there were some other segments too that were there and there was nothing, you know, they were just kind of there to say hi, whatever. I think New World, there's no clips for New World Order. But like it was weird that like the director of Fantastic Four was just in the audience, not behind, like he wasn't up on stage, and it was strange. Like I don't know if him and Kevin Feige got into a fight, or I don't know. But Kevin Feige was like, yeah, we're gonna announce that, and he's like, it was like an SNL skit where like Leo's in there, and then like Jonah Hill's in the audience, and he's like, I miss you, man.
Oh yeah.
Like the guy's in there, and he's just like, hey, and he's next to like John and Susan from Ohio, in like the audience at D23. And even my wife was like, why is he not like coming on stage to announce it and waving, hi, I'm the director. It was strange. And that was like, it stood out. And
it probably happened like 5 minutes before the show started. Like they finally signed and he's like, oh, I'm here to sign the contract. I'm just making it up.
Maybe, I don't know. Something had to happen, right? Like it's weird that he was the only one not on stage, but yeah, whatever.
So I want to touch on Captain America 4. I want to specifically call it that for a minute, just because I think what happens is we had this moment last year where we had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then immediately on the Twitter account where it was Sam Wilson, they did What If, and they replaced Sam with Peggy Carter, and a lot of people have feelings about Peggy Carter, and we're not going to discuss that. Again, we want to keep, prevent there being arguments, but it was questionable why they would take away Sam Wilson so quickly when we finally got our new Captain America. And I understand like marketing wise, and then I think they did a quick course correct because he was back pretty shortly after, but it was questionable. And then I remember hearing even after, like with What If and everything, and we're talking about Multiverse of Madness and all these other things, and all this stuff is being announced. What about Captain America 4? We know we are getting Captain America 4, but why are we not seeing Sam? Why is there Captain Carter in Multiverse of Madness? Why is this happening? Why are we talking about her movie? But we're not talking about Captain America 4. And then I feel like there was a lot of excitement until they announced the name, and then there was a little bit of concern with the title, New World Order. And that comes with a very, anti-Semitic background and stuff. Now, as me not being a Jewish person, not being of Jewish descent, and it's more than just a religion, it's also a culture, it's a nationality. I get that, like when I think of New World Order, I goes back to my wrestling, my wrestling fan days.
Yeah.
With like the NWO for life with Hulk Hogan and all them. And of course there's a lot of things that have been done that are not nefarious, but at the same time, it's all based off of this trope. And there are tropes like blood libels and New World Order and this concept that was used even during World War II, that the Jewish people were basically in control of everything. And then we get Tim Blake Nelson as the leader, and everyone is suspecting that he's the one that sent the goons, the wrecking crew, after Jennifer Walters, which I hope that's not the case, because then you go into the whole blood libel thing and that kind of stuff, and then there's the introduction of this character Sabra, and that put a lot of concern, mainly because Sabra the name does not come from the Sabra massacre. It's not where it came from. She predated that in the comics, but she was a Mossad agent who, I mean, anytime like people that were considered the Palestinian people in the comics they were like these bloodthirsty Arabs. I think they even called them Alibabas, which was terrible. And you have this concept of why are they introducing all of these really problematic things in this movie of all movies? Like, this should all be about Sam, but it's now kind of focusing all on this controversy. Now, could Marvel undo the historic racism that was in these characters and in this title? Not for the title, I don't think, not so much. I struggled a long time. I think that the title kind of does need to be changed. I'm personally feeling that way. But I think they could course correct the characters. We saw that with Shang-Chi. If you go back and you look at the original Shang-Chi comics, they are extremely racist. In fact, to the point of where Simu Liu will not even sign those comics. Like, it's even stated, if you go, like when we went to AwesomeCon, and I was looking, he will not sign any of the Shang-Chi and the Master of Kung Fu comics. Like, those are off the table, absolutely. And I completely understand why he would do that. But they did such a good job redoing Shang-Chi for the movies. And even with the Mandarin, I mean, like, they took that name that was so problematic, and they called it out and just called it stupid for what it was worth. And I loved that. I think they did a fantastic job with it. And so
I think they can do the same thing here. I do think, you're like, there is a point to, like, there's got to be a middle ground, right? Like, and I have to think someone who's done almost 40 movies and shows, or more than that, right, at this point, has a plan and has an idea, and we will see what comes of this, right? Like, I think, to your point, like, my first thought with New World Order is kind of Hydra pulling the strings behind, our Hydra-like, right? And so that's my first thought. But given all the background and the historical background, it is problematic, and there should be some tweaks. But I do think they can course correct the characters, and I hope there's not even a course correction. I hope it's like already planned like that. I will say, and I'm thinking about it in a different light now. So, like, there's a couple of things that I noticed during the panel, right? My first inclination was, if you know Anthony Mackie, the guy is unending energy. The guy is unstoppable energy. Like, he reminds me a little bit of Will Smith in that way. Like, he's just kind of like, he's that kind of, he's just always excited and joking around, and he conveys that in his acting. He seemed very serious when he was on stage talking about this movie. And my first inclination was like, oh, he's very focused. This is obviously could be the most important movie of his career. It's his Captain America movie. And even so much so that Kevin Feige, who had a little bit of sass during this whole morning, made a comment and was like, it's a movie now, Anthony. Like, I don't know if he's like a dig about it was a show before and people were saying it needs a movie. So, like, but like, he was very, very stoic, and he wasn't his usual goofy self. Now, I just thought he was super focused. I wonder if he's feeling a lot of the pressure of some of these things. I'm rethinking a lot of the things that maybe he's like wondering, is this a bad idea? Like, and then there was also a moment that happened that everyone saw, and it was funny. King von Schweetz had a different take than I did. I think me and Erica, we were in the audience when it happened. When he made a joke at the end, King thought he made a joke where he was like, oh, and one last thing. And then Kevin kind of cut him off, and then he walked off stage. I was like, was that planned? Was that not planned? And then, Jacob was like, no, that was a joke of like, I was going to spoil something and I didn't. I thought he got kind of like cut off and cut. And I was like, wait, did that just happen? So there's a lot going around with this movie. And I think it's far off in the future. It's got a lot of ways to go. I think they have to have a plan. There's got to be a plan.
It would be interesting if they've got this title, they have this character, which Jewish representations aside, that's a good thing, having Jewish representation. But with this character, the problematic, background of the story, I would not be the best. I feel like my biggest fear is that it's going to bring hate where it's not, because I've even seen some people like Watch with Neebs did a great video looking at it from this not as a Jewish side, but said, I'm not trying to promote anti-Semitism, anything else.
Yeah.
I am turning my comments off, and a lot of creators that have talked about it have done just that, because they're afraid that this is going to bring a very big a barrage of just hateful comments. But it is very possible that Marvel Studios specifically picked this title to attack maybe something specific. Like if you think about the first Captain America we got, we're in World War II, we're literally fighting Nazis and fighting Hydra, but they never talked about the impact of the Jewish people or really the horrors of what was going on. And yes, it was supposed to be lighter because they're trying not to be controversial in the sense of they're trying to build this empire, because they didn't know if the movie failed, they would never make another movie, basically. So there's that concept there. But at the same time, this movie does have the potential to go back and say, we're gonna make right all of these things. And if they do that, that's great. Yeah. But I do feel like Marvel Studios does have an obligation, especially when you consider the care that they took with Miss Marvel. How they're really trying to, put their heart in these characters, making these characters the best that they can. And they've always been very subtle about, let's say, like Mark Spector's Jewish background, with the Shiva and with the Star of David that he wore, but really didn't do anything farther than that. In Hawkeye, you had Kate Bishop at her aunt's house where you saw the menorah, you saw the stuff in the house, but Kate's celebrating Christmas, which Kate was supposed to be a Jewish character anyway. So it's kind of like this could be the chance that they do it now.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of like, I always say the analogy, it's like a kid who looks at their mom and their mom says, what do you want for breakfast? They say, I want pancakes. And they go in the room and their mom's making pancakes. They come in and they freak out like, Mom, I didn't want pudding, I wanted pancakes. And they say, well, it's a process. I'm making the batter to make the pancakes. It's not going to look like it needs to right now. And that's possibly where they're going. Like, we're seeing the batter phase, but at the same time, it puts a lot of question and a lot of concern. I feel like we need to be respectful. And I always challenge people, just because you don't have a horse in the race, stand back and be respectful and don't dismiss other people's opinions.
It brings up two things to mind, right? Like, first of all, how sad is that like, and this happens all the time. And this is literally why we're here, essentially, like taking it like 8 steps back from, Nerd Initiative and other things like that. Like, how sad is that you have to be worried about, speaking about something with like being scared of the backlash or repercussions, or just because you're talking about a topic, or anti-Semitism, spurring up, or racism spurring up because you're talking about something, or with She-Hulk, we've seen the comments that have come with that. And like, I mean, it's really sad. It just makes me like incredibly sad that we can't have, and like you said, I remember there was a couple of videos, and I commented on one of those videos with Watch with Beeps. Like it was a fantastic video. He talked about it, and I just was like, man, like, thank you for doing what you do, and just keep doing what you do, and keep being the person that you are. Like, it's important to us and the real people that like are actually like, thoughtful and appreciate it. And it's just so sad that this is always a topic and a fear, and it's bad. The other thing I was going to talk about is also, which is so random and so surreal. You were saying that obviously, First Avenger really didn't do it justice for talking about the Jewish, strife during World War II. How crazy that the best movie to do that was X-Men First Class. Like, oh yeah. I mean, talk about feeling the emotion of what Magneto and Eric went through, and being in the concentration camps. And obviously they didn't show it fully, but you saw glimpses of what people went through. And I mean, that's why that's really one of the most beloved X-Men movies. But it's just such a Or
even the first X-Men, when we first get the characters, the first thing you see is, of course, X-Men First Class expounded on that scene where you have this young Magneto who's seeing his family going through the gates, and he's being separated from them, and he's bending those gates, and they're holding him back. And just in that, they didn't show the gas chambers, they didn't show much of anything other than showing the emotional turmoil, and they did so well in doing that. And it was kind of funny. We just never got anything of that. Like, they didn't even make a comment. Like, I get where they made this idea where Hydra was the offshoot, was this thing that you know, I'm not gonna say his name, basically because of his injuries from the super soldier serum with Erskine serum, he gave him this group, and of course he grew away from them, and he was just using, you know, the Nazis and stuff like that. But you get this concept of like they were going in a different direction, but not even to touch on or even to even mention it passingly. And I get that people, you know, it makes people feel like, you know, that was a very traumatic event, and there are people that are alive even today that remember that, and to give acknowledgement that those things happened.
It also it's crazy to think about. Like, if we think about how times have changed, and I think there's going to be ebbs and flows, right? Like, that was First Avenger was what, 2011, 2010, like around that area.
Yeah.
And then we think about now 2022, where, you know, everyone was really like worried about touching on certain topics. We talk about, you know, the Lord of the Rings with the original trilogy, which is completely whitewashed. It's just so freaking crazy. And that's 20 years ago. But then now you look at like, you know, I know there's a lot, right? There's a lot of representation, which there should be. And I hopefully we'll end up getting it into we'll get to a place where it's just natural and organic and it's just there. And it's not like, you know, and I think that's the thing. So to your point, you know, you shouldn't gloss over that. That was a huge world event. Being, you know, Jewish myself, like, you know, I had a grandmother who had left Germany before Kristallnacht and that all started. And it was completely traumatizing for her, obviously, and lost a lot of her family. And so, yeah, I mean, hopefully I do think we'll get more of that now, because again, you think about the difference a decade makes, where, to your point, like the original 3 to 5 to whatever movies, I think were so different than what we're seeing now with Miss Marvel and with like She-Hulk even, and other shows. I think we will. I got to come back to the same thing. I think they have to have a plan. There's got to be a plan. There is a plan, and we'll wait till the batter is more formed, and that's coming full circle. So I'm proud of that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Panther.
So let's take a break from this real quick, so we could keep talking about D23 and about stuff that's coming up. But we're gonna go ahead and real quick go to Ringo. JJ wasn't able to do the comic recommendations, and so Ringo did it. 60-second comic facts, and there is something special at the end of this that we all need to remember for tomorrow. So let's go ahead and go to him.
How's it going, everyone? I'm your comic book guy. Here's 60-second comic facts, coming at you with a few recommendations for comic books that released this past week. First up from Marvel, we have Amazing Spider-Man #9. Peter Parker's breaking in his brand new suit gifted to him by his new friend and mentor, Norman Osborn. How exactly did that come about? Well, you'll have to pick up the series to find out. And after that, you should pick up Edge of Spider-Verse #3. Marvel continues to wow us with this multiversal spider stories, and I, for one, am all for it. Bring them on in. Keep bringing them. And then after that, you can pick up the biggest event that Marvel has this summer, AXE #5, Judgment Day. Everyone in the Marvel Universe will be affected by this event, and trust me, you're not going to want to miss out on it. Thanos' uncle is in it, new Celestials, Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals. Gigantic. I highly recommend checking out this event. Over across the street at DC, you can travel way back in time to the Jurassic period. That's right. You can pick up Jurassic League #5 today. This is a great retelling of the Justice League if they were dinosaurs. Also, you're going to want to pick up Batman vs. Robin #1. This is the final fight between Damian and Bruce. Who will come out on top, Batman or Robin? Thank you for watching. This has been Comic Book Recommendations from your comic book guy at 60-second Wait, what is that noise? Is that bats? Oh, we're not done yet. This Saturday, September 17th, is Batman Day, and in honor of the Dark Knight, DC's giving away a free few goodies. At your local comic book store, you should be able to pick up Batman Hush #1 for free, and a brand new comic made just for the kiddos, Batman Mystery Casebook #1 free as well. Be sure to check it out and celebrate the Dark Knight. This has been Comic Book Recommendations by 60-second Comic Facts. Now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, so that is exciting. Like, if you didn't know, You need to go to your comic book shop tomorrow, Batman Day, and it's Batman Hush issue 1 for free, and then there's the one that's for the younger ages. So we're gonna go out in the morning. We're gonna stop by there and definitely do that. That's cool. I love that. I love that little transition with the smoke and the
So good. So good.
But yeah, like lots of good comics. So let's go ahead and gear back a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about like your experience at D23. I want to kind of throw a couple things up there, up here, just some stuff. So, there was a lot of announcements when it came to Disney and Pixar. And let me try to jump. So of course with, let me pull this up real quick. Okay, here we go. So with things that were announced with Disney Plus Day was like the Dancing with the Stars stuff. Of course, Cars Road Trip or On the Road. There was the BTS, if you're that kind of fan. The only thing I know about BTS is one of the Fortnite emotes. That's about it. But then they also had announced Disney's one of their next live action movie or shows, I think it is. Or no, it's a movie that's gonna be on Disney Plus streaming, which is Disney's Peter Pan and Wendy, which it looks exciting, and this is more of I believe it's from Wendy's point of view about what's going on. So that was definitely exciting.
That's cool.
It's funny though, because I remember there was not the Pan with Hugh Jackman, which is interesting if you like them taking punk songs, like and using those as like pirate shanties and stuff, but or like they sang Nirvana at one point, I think it was. But it was, there was like there was the Peter Pan movie. I think it was back in like 2005, 2006, which was actually really good. What was really funny was what caught me by surprise was it was almost very much a similar story to the cartoon. And even in the cave with Tiger Lily, and you have Hook and Peter Pan talking, like they even sounded like the characters from the cartoon, which I thought was very funny. But I've always enjoyed Peter Pan, the story, and I'm looking forward to seeing this. I wasn't too disappointed with Pinocchio that just came out. But definitely this is something one of the things I am looking forward to pretty well.
I hope. I mean, I guess I'll take a counter angle to that. Like, I'm excited to see, but I do think, I will say with like Lion King and maybe with a little bit of Pinocchio, it's been a lot of like pull and lift from the cartoons. So we really haven't gotten anything and I guess maybe they're just playing on the fact that it's been so long since the animated movies came out, and they're like, you know what, like, yeah, let's just go ahead and print some money and make Lion King with Beyonce. That'll be a game. That'll be a game changer. That'll make $1 billion immediately, which was basically the same exact movie, essentially just in live action. Well, kind of, because obviously the lions aren't real to a certain extent. And the same with Pinocchio. I think it was very similar. There's a couple of things they add in there.
Or even the ending. I'm not to spoil it, but the ending was a little bit different from.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the part inside, I forgot what the whale was called.
Monstro.
Yeah, Monstro was a little different as well.
And Monstro was different.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. It's more like a Doctor Strange character than
At some point, he got called by Wanda to go after Chavez. No, but Samosa and Popcorn mentioned, it's a 2003 Peter Pan film, and if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. They do it actually really well. It's a fun movie. It's one that I own on DVD because I don't think they've ever translated to Blu-ray, but it's a fun film. I have to agree, like, it's nice when they do a departure from the story a little bit. Like I liked Beauty and the Beast. I'll be honest with you. The remake. Not really a big fan. I think it was Emma Watson. It's kind of funny. Everybody like complains about different things. It's like if nobody complained about.
She has like a Selena Gomez like following.
But it's like people are going to complain about all this stuff, but they're not going to complain about the fact that you have this girl in a small town in France who was born in Paris, who has an English accent. Yeah, we're not going to worry about that. But it's like, those kind of things, like I could see people nitpicking, but other stuff, You know what I'm talking about because if we get to it, talking about the Little Mermaid, which by far that trailer, I'm just gonna say it. That trailer is amazing. Like the only thing I have a complaint about is we didn't see Sebastian or Flounder. You know, like that kind of stuff. Like I would have loved to have seen how that's what I want to see. I want to see those characters, you know, in that world. But, you know,
I want to hear Under the Sea.
Oh, which it should be in the sea. But we're not going to complain. I mean, but I think Halle Bailey is going to do a great job. She already has the voice. She's already making it her own. There's some fantastic videos online of little girls and kids just falling in love with this actress, this character, and that's what it's about. I find it funny that adults are going to complain. Let the kids have their movies, and if you don't like it, don't watch it. But absolutely, like Halle Bailey, and then they also, I think they announced about the live event. I think it's going to be on ABC for the Beauty and the Beast. With the actress, and so I imagine people are going to complain with that as well. I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's Her. I think I don't know. I'm this person.
Don't ask me.
She absolutely is not in my radar of people. But I'm like, if Disney picked her, she's got good qualities, and I think that's the thing. If they get picked for this, it means that they're right for it, and they're right for the direction that they're going for. So just.
Well, I mean, the young woman. I'm gonna mispronounce her name too because I'm like literally. I almost wanted to say Halle Berry for some reason.
Bailey.
I mean, it's hard to make. It's easy to make that misconception or mistake. But you have this incredibly talented, accomplished. Like she's been around for years, and she's been doing amazing music and amazing work for years, and. If anyone's going to knock all these young girls and even boys too being inspired by something like this and young people of color and from different walks of life, like it's a shame. It's sad. It comes back to my earlier thing. It's really sad because you're going to stop someone's moment. It's an imaginary character that we're bringing into the 21st century. Like, again, these are not real things. Like all the qualms against She-Hulk twerking, or it's insane how crazy and upset people get. And again, the one thing I will never do, I'm never going to stoop to that level, and I'm not going to categorize people and say, oh, these people who are, there are some racist people out there saying horrible things, but I'm not going to put them into a bucket. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to do what they're doing with saying like, oh, this is not my Little Mermaid or whatever. Like, I'm going to try to do the Captain
It's
America.
a new generation's Little Mermaid, so get over it, get out of the.
It isn't ours. It isn't ours. That's the whole thing. Like, it sucks to say, but
the funny part is when we see the movie, it'll become ours. Like I think that's I think that's the biggest thing is like, it's like we've had one Black Disney princess so far, if you don't count Brandy doing Cinderella a number of years back, with what was it, Tiana with the Princess and the Frog, and I love that cartoon. Was it targeted for me? No, it wasn't. I'm not of that age group. Let's face it. At this point, the majority of the stuff that we're talking about, with the exception of maybe some of like the Marvel and Star Wars stuff, none of it's for our age group. But we're all into it. Like, I can't tell you how excited I am for Hocus Pocus 2, but it's not targeted at me. It never was. Like,
well, I mean, you think about the stuff though from 10, 20, 30 years ago when everything was targeted to, everything was targeted to whether maybe it's straight white people or whatever. Like, that was the audience that everyone always hammered at. Like, so for the longest time, there wasn't an opportunity and there wasn't exposure and there wasn't representation. Mm-hmm. So like, you can't have it both ways. And you can't be like, this is terrible, or this is ruining this, or the MCU stuff. I'm like, the anger from people about a throwaway post-credit scene of, and by the way, it's funny, I saw the behind the scenes photos, I'm sure you saw that too, where it is Tatiana Maslany like with the gear.
Yes,
that we
and
see
she's just having a blast.
Yeah, and I just, dude, who cares? Like, let them have fun. Let this enjoy. Like, let people like do different things. Let different things happen. Let's try to like, and then you might be pleasantly surprised that you like it too. But again, yeah, it doesn't always have to be targeted for you. And again, I go back to I know people have ownerships of some of these characters they love so much. They're not gone. You still have the art from a certain era that hit you or resonated with you. Like, yeah. I find it hard to believe, and I think the best example, and I'll end with this, is I find it hard to believe that true, positive, non-toxic Spider-Man fans that love and grew up, and obviously, if you look at my back wall, like it's 90% Spider-Man stuff, people that grew up and loved Peter Parker would have a problem with Miles Morales stepping in and being a different kind of Spider-Man and representing, a different kind of, it's a smart, wisecracking teenage superhero, but like representing that, like, and if you're hating on Miles Morales, again, I'm not going to put you in a bucket of be like, oh, you're this, but like, also like, I think you just need to think about like, this is life, and this is time, and this is how things change, and things are targeted at different people. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you should try it out. You might end up really loving it. I think a lot of people adore Miles Morales and are dying for a live action Miles Morales. And that just goes to show that just have an open mind, go into it, see what it is. If you don't like it, that's cool.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think people look for perfection and they want things exactly like they have in their mind. Like
exactly.
It's like, this is not what I pictured it to be. One of the biggest complaints everybody's like, She-Hulk is nothing like Better Call Saul. Well, yeah, because it's not. She-Hulk is like She-Hulk. And yeah. I hate when people always like, well, you don't know the comics. This is one of those times where reading the comics might help out, like understanding that Marvel is going that route and they're being true to the character.
It's so similar to the comics. It is a female Deadpool show. Like, point blank, it's wisecracking, it's satire. Like, I consider myself a pretty smart guy, and not to pat myself on the back, but I miss so many underlying themes in She-Hulk that I'm like, later on, and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I didn't really think about that. Like, it's a very smart, witty, satirical show.
Exactly.
That's it.
And it does take place a lot in courts, and the courtroom scenes are just as fun. Like, I love how they're taking in these small episodes, these like courtroom things. Like let's face it, that courtroom scene for this last episode went really quick. But it was funny, like I knew where they were going with it. And even though I knew the route they were going, like, oh, this makes perfect sense, I still was there for it. I still loved it. And it's like people are complaining right now because in the previews they've done, we know Daredevil is going to be there somewhere. And spoilers if you haven't seen She-Hulk episode 5 now, since we're in episode 5, and we've got 4 more to go. That little nod with the helmet, or the cowl, if you want to call it. People are like, well, that would have been more exciting. I'm like, I don't care. I knew it was coming, and I still got excited because now I have all these questions. Like, how did that happen? What was it? Did Matt not be able? Like, is this guy making his suit because he can't bring his suit from New York because they won't let it check through security? Like he couldn't have a Peter Parker moment where they think it's just pajamas. Like what what's going on?
Oh, see, for me, you're way smarter than I am. See, for me, first of all, I know that the actor who is the suit maker, I love him because he's from The Flight Attendant, which is on HBO, and he's fantastic in that. But I guess, man, I'm gonna sound dumb, but I suspend reality for where they are in locations. I know they're in LA. I just thought they were changing up. Again, I just don't care. I'm open to a new interpretation. Much like I don't want to see Ben Parker die again on screen.
Right.
Like, I am done with Ben Parker.
Of course, at this point, I would have preferred to have Ben Parker die than May Parker. Let's face it.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, that's true. But like, you don't want to see the same things over and over and over again. Do we have to see Bruce Wayne's parents get shot in an alleyway?
Someone say we do. Like, we've even seen it. We've even seen it in movies where Batman didn't appear.
It's Martha. But like,
why'd you say his name?
My thought was, this suit maker and I forgot his name or whatever. But
I just think it's the West Coast Edna Mode.
Yeah, he reminded me of in Captain America and Winter Soldier, or Falcon, was whatever. He reminded me of when they went to and what's her name, Sharon Carter was like acting as like the, you know, and that whole underground system. I was like, this is a new take on Daredevil getting his suit. That's the way I looked at it, and I was like, cool. Like, let's learn about it. Let's learn how, you know, it's not the suit maker from the Kingpin that we saw in the Netflix show or what we saw in the comics. And I was like, oh, cool, it's a new take. I want to know how this all works out. You're obviously a lot smarter in the sense that, like, oh, he probably couldn't bring it with him across a cross-country flight. But I think at the same point, like, people need to not go in there expecting the same thing. Like, that isn't art. That isn't time. Like, we cannot do the same storyline 100 years later. Like, I don't want to see a Batman movie in 50. Well, I probably won't be able. I mean, knock on wood. In 30 years, I don't want to see a Batman film where it starts off and there's a young Bruce Wayne leaving the opera and his friggin' parents get killed. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, do we want to see that over and over? Like, you have to change the storylines and adapt and get new content. Like, I don't know what to tell people.
I don't know. I think it's always going to be referenced, even if it's like in a news article. You're going to see some reference to that happening with Batman, but that's a completely different story. But it's like, I am one of those people where I have always stood firm to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Netflix, or now the Defender series. Those are all still canon to the MCU, and there's been arguments back and forth. But here's the thing that happens: the moment that these shows come out and they immediately contradict the previous source material, I'll be disappointed, but I'm not going to stop, and I'm not going to be outraged. Like, I have always been to the person where it's like, give me a specific time when Kevin Feige has said Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon. They have alluded to other things to kind of backtrack if they want to go that route, and I'm okay with that. But the reason why I do that is I loved Fitz and Simmons. I loved Melinda May. I want to see Daisy Johnson in the MCU. I thought it was a great way to introduce Inhumans and have that potential in the future. But if it comes out and says, like, Feige says, it's not canon, I'm okay with that. And
well, you also, I mean, look, there also is the fact, I mean, not to fully support you on this, like, in like being a cloying way, right? But like, there's the variant and the multiverse situation now. So even if like Amelia, so we didn't really talk too much about a Secret Invasion in detail, right?
Right.
But people are saying, is Amelia Clarke, is she Daisy, the new Daisy? If so, it doesn't make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. any less canon. In the same way that, like, hey guys, spoiler alert, Toby and Andrew's Spider-Man are canon. They were they're from a different universe. So again, we could get, I think with Daredevil, first of all, Daredevil season 1 through 3 on Netflix is one of my favorite all-time shows. Not superheroes, like shows. Like Charlie Cox, who oddly enough, when he's not in American accent, sounds like Daniel Radcliffe and so unintimidating when he's talking in his British accent. Like, he sounds like Harry Potter. But when he's as Matt Murdock, like, he's just phenomenal. Vincent D'Onofrio and like the whole cast is just like so good.
Yeah.
I do think Daredevil Born Again is going to be a reboot in the sense that they've said, and they even said it like I think Charlie Cox said it. It's not a season 4, it's a season 1, but that doesn't make his character.
Yeah, but that's like Daredevil Man Without Fear, and then Daredevil, Born Again. It's like a completely different run of comics. It's still within world, but it's a different run of something, and it's by different writers, and it has a different.
But even
tone.
if they are variants of each other, it doesn't make them non-canon. Like,
right.
Again, like they could always come back. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, and they could be a mix and match too. So like, say that John Bernthal's Punisher, which is coming back, John Bernthal's Punisher is the Punisher we knew.
Yep.
And he goes, he runs into the gold and red Daredevil, right? And he's like, wait, what's going on here? And somehow like something got messed up or whatever. And he's like, who are you? And like, and that still could be possible, and so I just think, like, again, this is it's so fiction, and we have to enjoy it and like take it with a grain of salt, but also like the multiverse is out there now. So like, it makes, and I do think I will stand by this and then I'll shut up. I think Kevin Feige, I'm very passionate today, but I think Kevin Feige, if we had him right here and I had like, you know, I was like, you got to tell me the truth. I guarantee his answer to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daredevil, any of those shows would be like, it's going to be canon or not canon when it's convenient for me in the storyline. So that's subject to change. And there is no definitive groundwork one way or the other. And what he's going to do is, if there's a petition to bring back Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he'll suddenly be like, it's canon again, or if it's not canon or whatever. And he'll be like, let's continue it on and let's bring them back in and let's have them come in Daredevil Born Again or Punisher or whatever. And so it's going to be whatever the studio and what Kevin Feige decides. And these fights and arguments about like it's canon or not, like, again, if people are passionate and like it, that's awesome. And they should continue to like it and continue to be like, have their own opinions, and no one should like have arguments about it, you know, whatever. Like, I just think it's silly.
Speaking of Kevin Feige, you know, Anthony Quintano got this picture with him, like as a ninja, as everybody else is like fawning over the fact that Kevin was on the floor. Anthony just walked right up and got the picture, and then got it before anybody else could, because security stepped in, and I'm so jealous.
Well, the story, as the story goes, and I wish King Von Sweets was here to tell it, but like, he said it, and you had to be there. It's like what's the letters, if you know, you know, like, literally we're standing there, we're just looking at the Marvel exhibit, and all of a sudden, like, Jacob goes, like, in a very like powerful yet like subdued, because if you know him, he's very like, he's not like me, like all over the place. He's very like, he's got a commanding presence, but he's not like, you know, up and down and like a spaz like me. And so in the most like uniform, he's like, that's Kevin Feige. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I remember I saw a video and he's like, how is this not the most important thing on the floor right now?
No one was, because he's the only one who like zeroed in on it. But then also like a sly ninja, Anthony suddenly, the second, like, I think my body is slow to react to my mind, because I'll see something and I have to like digest it first. Anthony like must have like, he's got like he's got like spider sense, because the second that I had to digest it and be like, what are you talking about? And like, then look and then see, and it takes like 5 seconds. The second that Jacob said that, Anthony was like, I looked over, Anthony's like handing his phone to Kevin Feige, and I'm like, wait, what is going on? And then all of a sudden he's taking a photo with him, and then security steps in, and then poor Jacob's like trying to be like, where can I get a photo? And then they're like, no, and like they're having this whole thing. And so, I mean, Anthony just did not, and he's also a photographer and a videographer, so I think he just jumps into action the second things happen. Like, he's good like that.
Yeah, he is.
And so he didn't waste any time, while I was like still like, I mean, the dude was like the Flash. Like, it was like, while I'm looking over, he's like spun to get to Kevin. And so, yeah, I mean, that photo is glorious. I mean, the looks on their faces, it's just like priceless.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because it's like, we have to learn from him, because the more we're at these events, like, and we see people like this, we have got to make sure we capitalize on the opportunity. I'm the kind of person that I would hesitate. I'd be like, should I not? You know, like, at least I'm like within 10 feet of him. Like, but it really, you know, that, you know, what do they say? It's like the fandom, it favors the bold. Like, you've got to be willing to jump out there.
He's got no fear,
like,
man.
I'll never forget, like, the only chance I ever got to see Stan Lee, I'm like, I'm going to give him something. I don't even care if it gets thrown away after. I want to be known to give him something. And I remember giving him this vinyl record that I had spray painted with the Captain America shield, and it was a clock. And I gave it to him. I said, this is for you, and I want you to sign one for me. I made this for you. And I remember him stopping everybody. And of course you couldn't record, because the biggest like the biggest scam that they did with the Stan Lee stuff was you recorded yourself with him signing something, and then they would sell copied signatures, but they would show like the picture of them getting it signed as authenticity. And so they said no filming, no pictures. And I just remember being there, and he just stops everything, and like he's like giving mouth to one of the guys that's handling him. He's like, no, I want to talk to him. And like he's like, this is really cool. How did you do it? And then he signed mine, and it's one of the best memories I have.
Yeah,
and I can imagine like catching Kevin Feige like this is like one of those rare things, unless you're on a red carpet with him, you know. And we live on the wrong side of the country to do that kind of stuff. This is one of those once in a lifetime type things. And I probably would have been like sweating and stuttering and
Oh, I think everyone was,
yeah.
and that's the whole thing about Feige too. Like, I think he's a fan just as much as any of us, and he's just walking the floor, and like, it is weird. Like, it's not something you see every day, And I think, I do think like there was a feeling. I mean, at some point they're probably gonna have their own like Marvel 23 or whatever they call it. Like, it did feel. I mean, the story that I keep telling is like, it's funny. Marvel, from the panel that we saw, it was Star Wars for like 20, 30 minutes and Marvel for like 2 hours. And then they like, basically, I keep saying they kidnapped us for 35 minutes and made us watch 6 clips of Avatar during that panel. And we're like, what are we doing? Like, I want to go. Like, stop holding us hostage. Like, I don't want to watch Avatar, The Life of Water or whatever. Like, and there was all these clips. I've essentially seen a third of the movie at this point because of all the clips they were showing us. And that's great. Yeah. And it looked beautiful. But I went there for Marvel. I think Feige lives in his own world where he wants kind of what we want. He wants to be with the fans. He enjoys the actual content. He enjoys the people. Like, he's not about marketing or selling anything. It's the quality of the product and that he knows the fans. And so like, I've never seen that at like that wasn't packed. He was just walking through and they just, this is like, again, it's like seeing, you would never see, I don't think it like 10 years ago, you see Stanley. I mean, obviously he was getting older, but Stanley just walking the floor. Like, he was always like ushered and stuff. So it's really cool. I like seeing stuff like that. It's really nice to see people, just wanting to kind of walk the floor and take it easy and not, whatever.
Yep. Then just a couple things to talk about, because we got to wrap it up because we're taking up everybody's time. Plus we have a special announcement at the end of the credits, so you want to make sure you stay for that. But we got the first look at Disenchanted with Amy Adams, which actually looks really good. I was a bit surprised at the route that they took of her being a little bit more, it seemed like she had a little bit more of a sinister side in the trailers, like her wishes are catching up to her. And then of course, I think this is it. Let me just make sure. This right here is something that I am extremely excited about and am looking forward to. 29 years since the last movie, and they don't look like they've aged a day in this picture. So I guess death does good for you. But the Sanderson sisters are coming back, and this is going to be on September 30th, the same day as our next show, which there's an announcement about that at the end of the credits. But yeah. But overall, real quick, just take a couple minutes. What was your overall? What would you say from your experience with D23? People that are maybe thinking about in the next 2 years from the next one. What do you recommend? Kind of like
it's a lot. I mean, the one thing I would be remiss if we didn't talk about that, like, very quickly. Harrison Ford. One of the, again, because I think Pedro Pascal and his just positive, beautiful energy on stage, hugging Filoni and Favreau, and he just was like, we need to protect Pedro Pascal for the next decades because that guy is a treasure and he's just so good, but also seems like such a good person. Harrison Ford, on a different note, the other emotional moment, I've never seen Harrison Ford not be so stoic. Like, and people were telling me that, like, obviously, like, that knew more than I do. Obviously, Star Wars was always kind of like a little too
much for him. Yeah.
Yeah, and Indiana was always his love, and so I think, man, he broke down, and I think there wasn't like everyone was kind of breaking down because you're kind of like, wow, this is an icon that we've grown up seeing, and he's always just like, I mean, the man survived a plane crash. Like, he crashed his plane, and his son, I remember his son being like, he's every bit the man you think he is, and he survived and he landed, and so, like, to see him break down, it was just a really touching moment, and that will always stay with me because that's one of those things where you're like, he's just, man, it means so much to him, and I can't wait to see the movie. And he was just raving, and he was just like a giddy kid, but one that was crying. So it's something that just like, if you haven't seen it, like, for anyone out there, Google. It's everywhere. Harrison Ford, emotional D23. It is a beautiful couple of minutes of him just like you know, you can tell how much this means to him. And I just think that we should all care so much about something like that, like we do about Marvel or fandom or, you know, Star Wars or anime or anything. Like, that's life. It's beautiful. So that's the one thing I will say. Overall, though, you need a game plan for D23. I think, and all these things, I think D23, and Anthony was really, really good at this. Quintano, who is Kevin Feige's bestie now, he said there's like these fan clubs and groups on like Facebook and other social media platforms that will kind of Sherpa you through these things, because it is a lot. Like I said, the Marvel panel was a lot and exhausting. There was another panel I wanted to go to. I'm not bitter at all that I didn't go to the Spider-Man 60th anniversary panel and didn't get my ridiculous comic that I was the one thing I probably would have wanted from the weekend. But it's a lot. There's a lot of things going on. It's bigger. It's different in the sense of Comic-Con, and like I've been to New York Comic-Con. I've been to other conventions. There's just it's Disney, so there's a mix of everything. So and the floor room is the craziest show floor room I've ever seen, where, you know, Straw Hat Goofy is hosting a stage at the very entrance by section A, and they're talking about the parks and they're talking about this, and then you got like there's like a hub, there's an Amazon station, there's a wall, there's just like so much going on. It is like a carnival convention. So you really have to do your research and be like, what do I want to do? I know a lot of people, the merch was a big deal for a lot of people, and I think experienced people would have known on Sunday there was these like 9-hour queues to get into like the exclusive merch places, and then on Sunday they were just letting people in, and so I got everything I wanted, like could have wanted like on Sunday, and then we walked to UPS and like shipped it back to myself and was like, all right, cool. So the biggest thing I can say is have a plan, figure out what you want to do. Don't overestimate. Like, I want to do this, and this. We did take our time. We had fun. We made some good connections. We saw the one thing that we wanted to see was the Marvel panel, but it is overwhelming and it's huge. But I think you really, like anything else, don't wing it. That's my one thing is do not wing it. Go in with a game plan, because, and then the last thing I will say, and then as always, like I always say, I think this is my catchphrase now. Then I'll shut up. That's my catchphrase. Is the cosplay is second to none. Cosplay is the best I have ever seen in my entire life. It is, everyone is so good, and the guy, I think he was at New York Comic-Con, and he's a pro. I don't know his name. He has a company. He did the big 10-foot Hulkbuster 5 years ago at NYCC that went viral, that like had millions of views. It was like this, like, he did a Hulkbuster R2-D2. So he was there, and it's like a 7-foot tall. It's got the R2-D2 head, but a Hulkbuster body. Yeah, the Jafar, that's Jafar, right?
That was Jafar, and then there was also this one here.
Oh, I mean, the Doc Ock, like there are so many. I mean, that is like just the tip of the iceberg. Everywhere you look, it is grade A cosplay, and it's from all different walks of life, right? There's Disney, there's Marvel, there's Star Wars, I saw a bunch of Spaceballs, like I saw a bunch of cool Spaceball costumes. And so I think if you are a cosplay fan, like this is the event for you, because you are going to meet your best friends there. There are so much talent there. So that was the one thing I kept looking around. I was like, wow, that's amazing. No, that's amazing. No, that's amazing. And I was just like, my jaw was on the floor at that stuff. So,
so with cosplay being mentioned, do you want to tell everyone what we've worked out for New York Comic-Con?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So it's for Friday of the con, which I just to make sure. So if you've been on Nerd Initiative's YouTube page and you've seen, recently Michael and I did a interview with John Caglione Jr., he won an Oscar for Dick Tracy. He had done Friday the 13th Part 2,
Dark Knight.
That was the one he's most notably known for. But he's also done things for like Gotham and like he's been in the industry. And if you know Heath Ledger's Joker, he's the guy who got him there. Heath Ledger did the acting, but The dude's humble enough to like try not to even take credit for it, but
He's so humble, but like
yes.
he's such an icon.
But during the interview, we had talked about trying to get him to go to New York Comic Con with us, and so he will be with us on Friday of the con. And so if you would like to look for us, look for the hats, and John will be wearing one of them, or Johnny he likes to call himself. I know he would love to see, if you plan on doing like a Heath Ledger Joker or a Dick Tracy thing, we want to get you with the guy who made those iconic outfits. So that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be exciting for New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
But with us wrapping up, we've already gone for an hour and 46 minutes. We need to work on curbing these. Like we're too like long-winded people.
Should we show the giveaway for the next show too?
Yes. So we just announced the last giveaway, which was awesome. I think that was announced today. And then we're going to be doing another one soon. Like the rules and everything will be coming. But if you would like to win a Lego Thor's hammer, they don't call it Mjolnir. I don't know why they don't call it Mjolnir, but
Jonathan.
Sure.
Mew.
But the Lego Thor's hammer, and I can attest, I have one. It is a beautiful Lego set. It does come off the base. Just be careful. You don't want to throw it. It will come apart. You want to make sure you're careful with it. But it's probably one of the cooler things.
And also it's sentient, so it'll also get really upset if you talk to like other things like Stormbreaker or whatever. It gets
exactly. And also, if you haven't noticed, Lego had just released an amazing set in lieu of Wakanda Forever coming out soon, which is the T'Challa bust with the claws. It is gorgeous. It's expensive, but it is gorgeous, and they're not done. I am sure there is amazing stuff coming down the road. That is just gonna knock your socks off and drain your pocket.
I love your poker face on that.
I'm not saying nothing. I don't know.
I know. I'm kidding.
But I'm just saying, like you might want to consider, if you were a Marvel fan, getting another job. That's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to afford more Legos.
Gotta get a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't compete with Nerd Initiative. We're trying to do our thing. But definitely, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for episode 2. It's fun. Now remember, there is an announcement for the next show on September 30th, so be sure to stay to the end of the credits for that. And have a wonderful night. Michael, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, here.
Thank you to everyone out there too.
All right, here we go.
So I had been into, mildly to moderately, a lot of nerdy stuff growing up. Star Wars, Marvel, DC, all of that was around in the 2000s, I was pretty much into. I thought it was amazing. It was mostly movies and shows, but I had a stack or so of less than 15 comics that I would flick through every now and then. So I enjoyed it, but I didn't really consider myself a nerd. However, when I was 12 years old, a major shift occurred. My grandfather, who I was extremely close with, passed away suddenly. I was very young, and there was really no indicator that something like that happened. And while I was at an age that I can understand what was going on, I didn't really quite know how to process it, and it messed me up for a while. I guess he passed away in his sleep, and so for a while I just had that mindset that if it happened once, it could happen again, and I just did not sleep, and it wasn't good for me. But a couple years later, I discovered a TV show that really helped put some things into perspective. That is the CW Flash series. I think 2 or 3 seasons were out on Netflix at that point, so I binge watched them all, and I just fell in love with this character and this show, and I saw all the things that a young Barry Allen went through, and I felt for it because I was going through a similar thing myself. And what it put into perspective for me was, if he can continue to wake up and put one foot in front of the other every day, why can't I? And so from there, I decided that wasn't enough. I went out and got the first Flash comic I could find, which was Flash Rebirth by Jeff Johns and Ben Skyver. I read it, and I fell in love with the character. And then that obsession just grew into characters like Superman, Nightwing, Daredevil, the X-Men, and so on and so forth. So if you guys ever wonder why I hold a lot of these characters in high regard, it's because I found the one that I needed when I needed it the most, and that's my nerd origin story.
I was but a boy, of only the tender age of 5. I knew nothing of nerdiness or geekiness. Sure, my father was a Trekkie, and my mother a Disney adult. But it was not until my cousin moved in with my family and showed me the sacred documents. The grand tales of Star Wars, the original trilogy. From the moment Obi-Wan cut off Ponda Baba's arm in that cantina, a geek was born. And now I spend my days spreading the geekiness. Collecting Funko Pops, comic books, fantasy weapons, and cosplaying. However, I am a Christian first, which means I try to enjoy my geeky obsessions with a healthy amount, not idolizing them, not doing too much, although some might argue I'm not doing very well in that, but I do enjoy it, and I love to spread geekiness and the love of Christ.
What are you doing here? Like, seriously, like, the show's over. You can go now. We're not going to announce anything else. Like, you're just kind of being creepy now. It's not like I was going to tell you that next show is the 30th, which is when Hocus Pocus comes out, and we're going to do a watch party right after the show. Oh. Yeah, so next show is on September 30th, and there's going to be a watch party right after on Stream Lounge, and you can join us there. All right, now you can go. I'm not doing the Ferris Bueller chicka chicka thing.